It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I am your host and game master, Tyler Hapney, and I have game mastered hundreds of games of Cyberpunk RED and Dungeons and Dragons combined. And this podcast is a way for me to reconcile some of my thoughts on both of those systems. So without further ado, we're going to get into our topic today. We're going to talk a little bit more about Cyberpunk. And if anyone's been keeping track of recent Cyberpunk news, you'll know that, hey, there's yet another DLC that just dropped. This one for the month of July. This one came out maybe a week or so ago. So I wasn't covering it last week, but I am covering it now. And this DLC is titled Going Quiet. And it features, as it says, tools for heist, cons, and other stealth play. So first thing first, like many DLCs, we get an interesting story to kind of open up the DLC. This one seems to be mostly about Measure Twice, who's a solo, and 24/7, who is a cameraman for N54. And so we're seeing, well, I don't know if 24/7 is I think that might be Angle. That's the cameraman for 24. I believe 24/7 is the solo media that they've sort of created. So that's, but anyways, definitely interesting story there, talking a little bit more about medias and stealth, and kind of fits in with the DLC. But one thing that they've added, not necessarily added, but they're bringing back up from a previous DLC is the concept of Flash of Luck, which is a mechanic that would be really good for stealth. It basically allows players to spend luck points after they've made the roll. So maybe they want to retcon something out of existence, or provide an advantage to themselves when something happens. So now you can use your luck to kind of save your bacon in certain such situations, which of course is very helpful during stealth. And Flash of Luck is probably, I mean, for a lot of GMs, I wouldn't imagine Flash of Luck being, I mean, I'd imagine it being somewhat helpful. I mean, when you think about it, Flash of Luck, obviously, use it for combat or whatever, but in terms of actually getting use out of it, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck if you're using Flash of Flash of Luck during stealth sequences. Just plain and simple. So this one's interesting. There are some rules to Flash of Luck. For one, you can only use a Flash of Luck once per beat, and no more than 3 times per mission. So in Cyberpunk RED, they basically split each 30-minute kind of plot point up into something called beats, which is, pretty cool. And then if it's performed during combat, Flash of Luck is a standard action. So it does take your entire action to use Flash of Luck, but, at the end of the day, you're getting something really nice out of it, typically. And then here's kind of an interesting one. The player must spend luck points as indicated on the Flash of Luck table, which there is a table, of course, for all the different things you can do with Flash of Luck. You describe an action you took in the past, tell when it occurred, explain how it helps in the current situation. So you're kind of like going back and doing a flashback and be like, well, actually, before the mission, I did this. And then you spend the appropriate amount of money, spend the appropriate amount of luck, and that's how Flash of Luck works. Pretty cool stuff. Another, I guess the last point here would be the GM always has the right to veto a Flash of Luck. So at the end of the day, if it's too powerful or too busted, your GM might just say, hey man, nah. And that's perfectly within their rights. So with Flash of Luck, you can achieve pretty simple things for €100 and 2 luck. Get something a little bit more unlikely for €500 and 4 luck, and then get something basically impossible for €1,000 and 8 luck, which is the maximum amount of luck you can get at character creation. So obviously, not everyone is even going to be able to use that option. And for those who do, it's because they built entirely into luck. So they should be rewarded for that. All right. So that is Flash of Luck, and that's just before we even get into some of these other really interesting sort of concepts. For one, they finally added mechanics for net running and stealth, which is not something that you could do. I mean, you could do it if your GM would work with you on it, but beforehand, for the most part, when you entered a net architecture, the demons or whatever they have installed inside would typically be alerted to that presence, which, I mean, fundamentally, if you run into a demon during net running, like normal net running, and it goes off, that's it. That's, if it sees you and it is able to take an action, it is likely to use part of that action to set off the alarm. So stealthing while net running as it stands isn't exactly the easiest thing to do. It's possible, it's just not easy. Uh, but this is a little bit better. This gives us some mechanics for actually going in and trying to stealth your way around a net architecture, which is a lot better than going in and getting destroyed. So this uses a lot of cloak checks, speed checks, stuff like that. But basically, I mean, it's a lot of it does work generally like net running has already. You've got your interface check and something that is attached to that, which presumably you have programs that would help you boost your skill in that. And yeah, there's a lot of it here. Personally, when it comes to stealth net running, I know I'm probably going to be using this. Uh, It's just, well, I mean, it's kind of a given. I mean, a lot of players, at least when I have brought up netrunners in my game, have always kind of come in with the assumption that they could stealth netrun. And I mean, in 2045 and in the time of the red, maybe it's a little harder than it is in 2077 or in the video game to sort of get around without people really noticing you. But that's stealth net running. Eh, Now we can actually get in to the various types of gear that they have created for the many different sort of stealth missions you can go on. This one is fun, a binary compound. It is a tube that comes with two different nozzles. Each nozzle has a chemical inside that will combine that to create a chemical that can eat through anything that's metal, wood, whatever. It takes about 6 seconds, so 2 rounds, to apply the compound to a 2 meter by 2 meter section of cover. And once applied, it begins damaging the targeted section of cover at a rate of 66 damage per round, which is insane. You can destroy a lot of normal covers pretty quickly that way. And any of the higher strength cover is usually not going to last more than 2 or 3 rounds. If the cover is layered, the compound continues to eat through the next layer of cover once it is done with the previous layer. So, I don't know. I don't even, hypothetically, let's say somebody is covered in armor, and then maybe they've got, I don't know, some layer of subdermal armor or something beneath. You could say that, maybe the armor gets eaten through and then it starts eating through their subdermal armor. And that could, lead to the subdermal armor being damaged or broken beyond repair, and that could cause some interesting sort of, you know, some interesting situations for your characters. And obviously, another one is like cars. If the car is covered in like armored plating or something, well, this can eat through that pretty quickly, pretty effectively. We've got branded jumpsuits. I mean, that's pretty simple. It's just jumpsuits that have company logos on them. You can get from low security, so like sort of low end kind of companies, to a more extreme security, higher end company, mega corporation. So like an Arasaka suit or a Militech jumpsuit, and that's $1,000 for one of those. But I mean, imagine how useful it'll be at the end of the day. So next one is concealment sleeve. This one is fun. It's a special sleeve fitted over a cybernetic limb that contains, well, a concealment sleeve. Yeah. Your cyber limb, while you have the sleeve on, will read as biological to a cyberware scanner, which is huge. It is. So they can't even tell you have a cyber arm. Um, each sleeve is custom fitted to your cyber limb, which means obviously you can't just mass buy them. You've got to have them specially crafted for your character. There are a lot of items in here, so I'm not going to go over all of them, but those are the first few that are interesting to me. I think the next one, okay, these kind of go together. Handprint glove and handprint scanner. So handprint scanner is pretty simple. It's literally a scanner for your handprint, so you can open doors or what have you. And then a handprint glove is, well, it allows you to make a handprint that is not your own. So they go together as a handprint scanner and sort of a key to get around it in the handprint glove. The scanner itself is a traditional €20, while the glove is much more at 500. So if you're looking to buy some of that, obviously you've got to probably save some up. Speaking of saving, the next item I want to talk about is the Militech N97 Ghost Suit. This thing is insane. If you remain still for 1 minute, you can activate a cloak that hides them from all visual senses, including low light, infrared, UV, unless the person who's looking succeeds at a DV17 perception check, which is it's tough. I mean, some people start with 14 perception. Not everyone. Some people might be a little lower than that. For them, they're probably not going to be able to see whoever's wearing this ghost suit. It is €5,000 for that, because obviously it is a piece of somewhat experimental Militech technology. So getting your hands on it is definitely easier said than done. Next up, we're going to talk about the Nymph perfume, and this stuff is crazy. A spritz of Nymph's perfume lingers on a surface for 1 hour, so your skin or whatever. Anyone who spends more than 9 seconds within 6 meters of the perfume source must succeed on a resist torture drugs check, or become slightly confused and take a -2 penalty to human perception checks for 1 hour. So they're a little ditzy. Maybe they're focused more on the scent, or something's happened with them to sort of dull their own senses. And that has allowed them to, well, basically be hit with the dummy gas. If you have nasal filters or an anti-smog breathing mask, you cannot inhale the perfume, so therefore it does not affect you. A typical full bottle of Nymph perfume contains 50 spritzes, which is quite a bit. If you're going in to sneak into somewhere and trying to be more social. So the last one I want to talk about before we get into our metaphorical monster of the week is the translation chip, which is something I'm surprised we haven't had up until this point. In Black Chrome, we got an app that allows us to basically active translate things. But this goes a little further. For the humanity loss of 7, and obviously it is chipware, and requires Chiron as well. You basically can speak any language. Any words in a language heard or read by the user are then automatically translated into pre-chosen language and displayed on their Chiron as subtitled text in real time. So just like in Cyberpunk 2077, you can have situations where you'll see what's in the game, where as people talk, the text slowly changes from whatever to English subtitles that you can then read while you still hearing the actual untranslated words, which I think is really cool. It doesn't mess with your vision, or it doesn't mess with your audio, but more messes in with your vision, and kind of works with that. Translation to slang terms is hit or miss. Language, it says here, language evolves faster than Raven. Cybernetic can push out updates. It quite noticeably does not allow you to speak any additional languages, just understand them. So if you're getting a translation chip, it is not Duolingo. It's not the Matrix. You're still gonna have to learn that other language if you want your character to be able to speak German or Dutch or Spanish or whatever is sort of coming to your mind. So that is going to be it for some of the gear. I really would recommend you read through this. DLC, because if you're into stealth gameplay, it's actually a must-have. This hands down. It's completely a necessary DLC that we've needed, I think, for some time. And it's really exciting that they made a lot of this free rather than included in an interface red or something like that, like the upcoming Rogues Night City weapons, or I forget what it's called. Anyway, speaking of Rogue, guess who our monster of the week is? Our metaphorical monster of the week. That's right. We're going to talk about Rogue. Rogue is one of the most famous characters from the Cyberpunk canon. I'd say definitely not as famous as Adam Smasher, Johnny Silverhand, or Morgan Blackhand, but still, I mean, in terms of people who've played Cyberpunk 2077, or maybe even people who've watched Edgerunners, they should at least be aware of who Rogue is, and kind of her impact on the setting of Cyberpunk as a whole. Because she's been around Night City for a really, really long time, and she's met a whole lot of different people, including Johnny Silverhand. So, who is Rogue? Well, Rogue is essentially an edge runner from the 2020s, who managed to hold on to her own life and actually live. which is a surprising thing, considering usual endings in Night City. But she managed to make it out of the whole 2023 Arasaka Tower thing, which she did participate in. And from there, she kind of used that clout and sort of her hold on the Night City scene to become what is known now as the Queen of the Solos. Basically, she became the number one solo in Night City, mostly because Morgan Blackhand's gone, Shaitan's gone, Spider Murphy's gone, Johnny Silverhand is dead, Adam Smasher's gone. Really, when you think about it, at the end of 2023, there were not a lot of high-end edge runners left in Night City. Really, honestly, when it comes to it, I would say Rogue was probably the highest end solo that was left in Night City after the whole Arasaka Tower bombing and all that went down. I mean, obviously you had a lot of street level solos, but no one nearly the same level as Rogue Amendiaries. Yeah, I mean, come on. But she took this clout, this Queen of the Solos title, and believe it or not, she didn't do a ton of edge running with it. It seems like after you've bombed Arasaka Tower, you can't really go much higher than that. So, it seems like Rogue sort of took the back seat and became more of a fixer than a solo. And she took control of one of the city's more popular clubs, the Afterlife, which in the 2020s was, as far as I'm aware, just kind of your average sort of place to go that had its own sort of theme. The Afterlife is themed after a morgue. It's supposed to be a decommissioned morgue where they've got all the rooms made into different bars and stuff, and between the 2020s and the 2040s, Rogue gets a hold of that, and basically starts to create, the Afterlife as we know it today, where it's seen more, I guess, as the Night City premium solo bar. Whereas up until that point, it might have been seen more as maybe the Atlantis might have taken that role a bit more, or maybe even the Forlorn Hope, but that's a tale for another day. What is important is that ultimately, after the Night City Tower thing, Rogue became a major fixture in Night City's tapestry. And that is something that they explore in Cyberpunk 2077, where it is sort of revealed that maybe a little bit after everything kind of goes down, maybe Rogue did do a little bit of work for Arasaka, or maybe something along those lines. There's quite a lot of interesting conversation and some accusations even thrown around by Johnny when it comes to what Rogue has been up to in all of these years. So obviously, I don't want to go too deep into that conversation. For people who haven't played 2077, you really should. And absolutely, once you get to Act 3, do all the Johnny stuff. Really, trust me, you're not gonna regret it. So, yes, Rogue. She's still around. Still very old. She's around in 2077. So obviously, by Cyberpunk RED, she's still there. And Yeah, no, she's just not a very nice person. When you look at how she's kind of written in some of the adventures that they've published already for Cyberpunk Red, in the Tales from the Red stuff. So, yes, Rogue, great character. Definitely, I use her a lot. I think any self-respecting Cyberpunk Red GM should at least use Rogue a little bit. You got to pay respects to that. So, anyways, that'll be it for us this week. Thank you so much for listening. Uh, my name has been Tyler Hapney, and next week we're going to talk a bit more about Dungeons and Dragons. Thank you so much for listening.